Welcome back to California Life Podcast. Today, guys, I am very excited to introduce to you not just a colleague, but also I would consider you a friend, Colleen Saftler. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Colleen. Thank you, Colleen, for coming to the show today.
That was my pleasure. I'm very excited to be here. I was thrilled when you asked me to be on the podcast. I did a little research and I saw the work you were doing, and I think it's very admirable. Like everything you do, Victor, I admire and respect your chutzpah and your just going after things and really making things happen in the industry and in your personal life. So I'm very pleased to be here.
I appreciate that, and thank you again for coming. I love your interior design. You're fantastic.
You like this? Oh, piano over here.
Yeah.
These virtual backgrounds are really beautiful. I chose one that, equated with my personal tastes. So of course I would have a piano and a lovely interior. Very zen.
Indeed, that's what I was just going to say. Very zen.
Yeah.
You are known as a very zen person in Los Angeles, which is pretty unzenny, if I may.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
yeah, and today what I wanted to talk to you about is your experience in the business and in LA in the industry.
Okay.
Um, I know that you took, I would call it not very traditional path, the way people do in LA.
Right.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but mostly when people come to LA with the dream of being an actress or an actor or a writer, whoever, they would start with something that everybody else, is doing, getting headshots, trying to find an agent, stuff like that.
Right.
Coaches, I call them acting couches. Uh, you went to one of the best schools in the world, the USC.
Yes.
How do you think this path differ from what everybody else is doing with, the headshots and coaches and teachers?
Well, I first of all, I think that all paths are appropriate for all paths are appropriate depending on the person and what their goals are and what they want to accomplish. At one time, back in the day, in my younger days, I also moved to LA when I was a youngster and to seek my fame and fortune. And I tried that path of just getting the headshots, trying to get an agent, getting in plays, trying to get myself seen. And it was very, very challenging because everybody was doing it. And life takes us where life takes us. And it was a very circuitous route for me, but I came back full circle and decided to go back to school in my later years as an adult to finish off my education because I'd never completed college the first time around, the first time I went. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to do and accomplish in the world, I've been an actress my whole life. I've always been in theater. I've always been on stage. I've always acted in any chance or acted up in any chance I could get. But I came to a place in life where I really wanted to give back. I wanted to make a difference in the world. It's not just about me. It's about how can I contribute? How can I be a part of the change that we wish to see in the world? And when I started thinking about things in those terms, I realized I needed, or felt that I needed a degree. I felt that I wanted that behind me. And if I was going to go through the time, the trouble, the expense, the brain power, everything that was necessary to do this, I was going to study and I was going to go to a school that I admired, but also study something that was near and dear to my heart. And that's storytelling. And one of the greatest schools known for that is USC. It's cinematic schools, School of Cinematic Arts, it's School of Dramatic Arts, our top school in the nation, or one of the top schools in the nation. So I set my sights on that and was accepted. And so I got my BA in dramatic arts with acting. And I also got 2 minors in cinematic arts and screenwriting because I found that I loved it. I found that I fell in love with screenwriting and it was something I really had a knack for, a natural ability. And so here I am. I went back to school to be able to speak in the language of film. I wanted to understand that language because it is different from other languages. It is a different means of storytelling. But if we want to reach a greater audience, and if we want to tell big stories for that greater audience, there's no better way to do it than bright, shiny objects moving on a screen. And that's TV and film and any kind of screen. Obviously, it's expanded these days to include YouTube and any kind of media. So we tell stories all the time. And I decided to do it in a way where I knew that I would also create a family. One of the things that USC is really known for, and I appreciate with all my heart, I'm so grateful for the opportunity of having gone there. And that is they have an amazing networking community among the alumni. And so I'm currently involved in the Women of Cinematic Arts, which is an alumni association for the women who have gone through the cinematic arts program. And we have monthly meetings. We get together for coffee. We share, we support whatever we can do with each other. And there's a lot of that on many, many levels throughout USC. So it was important for me to give myself that foundation from which to my springboard, from which to jump off into this newfound career. But my graduation date was May of 2020, and we all know what happened then. That was when COVID hit. And so it was a challenging time to kind of springboard myself into an empty pool. It's
Right.
Nothing. But it's been slow, but it has been there, and it's been well worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about my life, my trajectory, or where I'm at and what I'm doing, because I love my life, and I'm happier now than I've ever been. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, that's an exciting story. How do you feel yourself, or maybe if you just try to jump outside of yourself and you see a person who has passion for film,
Right.
before USC with all the more, let's say, traditional ways of headshots and acting couches,
Right.
and after USC, what are the main differences and values that you would say you could underline and highlight?
Well, I think it's kind of common knowledge, but maybe not. So I'm going to state it, and that is a very difficult industry to be in. It's a very difficult industry, even if you're already established. But trying to break in, as they say, it's very challenging, and it's tough on you as a human, as a person, because you really have to learn how to deal with rejection on a pretty daily basis, especially from like an actor's point of view, but from any creative writer, director, anything like that. We're always putting ourselves out there, offering what we have, and then it gets rejected. We either get the job or we don't, and it's a project-based industry for the most part. So I think dealing with rejection and needing to really know who you are as a person, I think the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the idea of knowing who you are. Know thyself. In the set in stone, in the inscription above the Oracle of Delphi, are the two words "know thyself." And Shakespeare said it in Hamlet: "To thine own self be true." And from that place of knowing yourself, accepting who you are, all the parts of you, good, bad, and ugly, loving yourself, having a strong foundation of who you are in what you want to accomplish and what your dreams are and your goals and your aspirations. You have to have that foundation. You don't have to, but it certainly serves you. It serves anyone to have that kind of foundation stepping into an industry like this, where you have to have a tougher skin. You really do need to just keep at it and persevere. You know, some people say, well, they were just lucky. They got a lucky break. And I love the quote from the Roman philosopher Seneca, which is, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And we need to be prepared. We need to come to the table prepared for anything that comes our way, any opportunity, because you never know when it's going to be. So I would say for those who are trying to break in, who are trying to do it the old-fashioned way, headshots, honestly, I know I don't think they're the magic bullet. It's great to have good headshots. It's great to have something that represents you. But my goodness, everybody takes selfies every 2 seconds in this town or everywhere, right? There's so many images of us online, on our social media, everywhere, that the headshot to me is not necessarily your golden ticket. Your golden ticket is more showing up, being present, and showing what you can do. So one thing that I have always admired about you, Victor, is that you always have something in the pipeline. You have multiple projects going, and you put yourself out there and you say, this is what I'm working on. This is, your projects are your calling cards. So anytime anybody wants to know about you, or if they're thinking about working with you, they just have to go online, whether it's your website or your social media, and they see how many things that you're involved with and what you're putting forward. And I think that is more of the way things are going these days, where we create our own projects. We are our own creators of our destiny, basically, and we need to do that through what we put out. So continually creating content and posting content, trying to do as good a job as possible. I think quality it trumps quantity. So I would say the networking, content creation, doing really good work and showing up in an honest way so that you're willing to do the work. Perfect example is how I met you, through Miss Tara Danielle Durbin, who is a fellow USC alum. And she told me she had worked with you and there was an opportunity, and you gave us the opportunity to PA for you, right, on some projects. And through that and our volunteering to be of service, to be of help in any way we could, whether it was go getting the snacks or going to get the lunch or whatever it is, we got to be on set and we got to learn from you and we got to experience the different projects that you were working on. And showing up with responsibility and the willingness to work and having a good attitude and optimism, I think goes a long way with showing people that you want to work, that you're willing to work. And from that point, our relationship has developed into something really, really lovely. It keeps growing and expanding and evolving, which is wonderful. And I think that is how, more than anything, how the industry works, is making those connections, having those relationships, and really showing up with everything you have. One of the things I call myself these days, I've kind of adopted this moniker or title, is a creative integrationist. And that sounds very fancy. But what it means is when I am on a job, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm producing or writing, acting or directing, is I bring all of me to the table. I don't just compartmentalize and say, well, today I'm wearing my director's hat, so I'm only going to bring with me the things I learned in my directing classes, or the last job I was on, what I gleaned from that experience. I bring everything from my personal relationships, everything from my childhood, like everything comes with me, and it gets integrated into this creative being that I am, so that I can just give everything I have. And I think that is one of the things that we can do as artists, is really bring all of ourselves to every endeavor, show up and do the best we can.
Definitely. Well, the thing which you are talking about, I call it bringing value.
Yes.
I would say one of the best examples, or maybe the best examples of that, would be Sylvester Stallone, who wasn't crying that, oh, I'm just an actor. He wrote, he created, he produced, he did many other things, and look at his
Yes,
brand.
exactly.
And the other thing which I wanted to mention to you, again, USC choice. Online we see so many influencers, right? And they would say, you have to drop off the college. It's blah, la 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 la, that type of a
Right,
story.
right.
And
Is
I
it
think,
worth it? Is it worth the investment?
yeah. And then I think only Elon Musk, whose
Mhm.
idea aligned with mine, go to college if it's a plan of your branding or financial plan, right? So how did USC being on your resume impact, or maybe did not impact your resume, and then the way you see the work?
Well, having USC be part of my brand, if you will, I think does impact because it is recognizable. So it's kind of like, let's just face it, we work in an industry where everybody name drops. Well, like your resume is who have you worked with? What film have you worked on? Who was the director? They want to know who the big names. So if you can associate yourself with somebody who has made it or has a name or has a brand that is really recognizable, that is like a leg up. That's a foot in the door. That's a way in. And USC is that because it has such a reputation for the quality of people that it puts out. Like, first of all, it's very difficult to get into. And they only accept a very small percentage of admissions. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people apply every year to USC, and a very small amount get in. So when you come out with a degree from USC, it says something, and people know that. So when they see it on your resume, it's just that little extra shine, on it, so that they go, oh, okay, this person knows what they're doing. They really, USC is known for the quality of the education and the people that put out. I mean, there's so many names that have come out of that school that who have made it, in the industry. Steven Spielberg has donated quite a bit of money to USC because of the influence, and
Right.
George Lucas, and there are a lot. I'm sorry, I'm not. That's one thing I'm terrible at, is the name dropping. So forgive me. I don't know all of the top names that have gone through the school, but there are numerous. And I see you out there, all my USC alums, wherever you are. So it has made a difference, and it's often the starting point when I start talking to somebody who's looking at my resume and interviewing me. One of the very first things they bring up is, so how was that experience? Tell me about that. So it makes a difference. I feel. I even wrote an essay while I was in college on, is it worth it? Is the investment, because it is a lot of money. It's a private college, and it's a lot of investment of your time and money and of yourself. And all I can say is it was worth every penny. It was worth every minute. I feel like that school gave me so much, just in the terms of who I am as a person, and how it really solidified for me, kind of helped me coalesce all that I was, and package it in a way that allows me to stand with confidence. And I know what I know, like that you can't ever take that away from me, right? And what I've learned there and what I bring with me to the table, and that confidence that I have in that, it's immeasurable, honestly. So that's part of the USC gift, I guess.
Hmm.
And yeah, so
Well, that's a definitely a good, powerful tool, I would say. When you bring up
well,
confidence to your table.
yeah, the confidence that it instills, and then just the connections. Somebody knows in this town, especially in Hollywood and in LA in general. Somebody knows somebody who's gone to USC. Either they have, or their daughter. I have a USC visor that I wear everywhere I go. And it's just my thing. I started wearing it in school when I was in school, and now I wear it everywhere. I go for walks in the park. I'm walking down the street. It doesn't matter where I am. I will have people yell at me from across the street, "Fight on, go Trojans," or something like this. And I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" Like, "Oh yeah, right. I have the hat on."
Right.
It's truly amazing, the connection that that family has. So in this town, it is important, because if there's a person who's in a position of power or hiring or anything like that, and they're trying to fill some jobs on their set or in their productions, and they look at your resume and they see USC and they're a graduate of USC, it means something. It really does. So I recommend an education as a way to go, because of what you learn and what it makes of you as a person. Because you have to be so determined to get through everything. You really have to give of yourself, and you have to become disciplined and follow things through to the end. And there's just a lot of personal attributes that get solidified through an education like that, through a four-year university, that I don't think a lot of people, I don't think there's another way to get it, like in such a short amount of time. Like after years, maybe years on the job or years out there, you might have those attributes, but I think the college education hones that in a very short period of time.
You just took my thought that I was going to mention, that to me, one of the differences from people who are taking the, let's say, traditional route with acting couches and headshots versus who are taking the USC 4-year program is the discipline and the work ethic that you get installed by the school.
Yes.
It means for us, for people who are bringing resources together to create a project, it brings a lot of value. We know that we can rely on you. We know that you know the work ethic. Plus,
yes.
you have business experience, so it's way easier for me to communicate with you on simple things like, hey, we need to write this scene this way because of the budget matter. And
then I got it. I know what that means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you mentioned you're working networking with multiple groups, family, USC, obviously people engaged in the business. To you and what you discuss with them, how do you and your peers feel about the change in the business, which was, let's say, pre-COVID and now,
Right.
including the strikes?
Okay. Well, financially, it's been very, very difficult on a lot of people in the industry. People are leaving. Paramount just let go of like 4,000 people. It's a lot. And people who have been in the industry for years and years, like when I'm in this, I graduated fairly recently, 4 years ago. But for a lot of my colleagues in these alumni associations, they've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years or more. And it is challenging for them as well right now. So it is a difficult time to go the traditional route. And that's the pre-COVID versus the post-COVID, and then the post strikes and all that, is that we are living in a time of incredible change, and it feels chaotic because it is. There's a lot of chaos because everyone, including the decision makers, including the executives, all the way down to the technicians, we are dealing with change, like immense change, from AI to technology and everything else in between. And the fact that the studios are recovering from their losses and they're trying to figure out how to do business, because it is a business, in this new realm. Having said all that, and having, and I hear the stories every day of how the challenges that everybody's having, but what that does, and I actually learned this in directing class, when we are given a frame, and a budget is a frame. So it just means, a framework means it's something within which you have to work. This is the frame within which you have to work. And a budget is that, like, be creative, but don't go over $10,000. Be creative, but you got $1.2 million, and this is what we got to work with. So the environment that we're in right now is doing that for us. It is giving us a framework. And within that, that is where the cream rises. And we need to be our most creative and our most ingenious and industrious. And like, we really are being called at this time to pull out everything within us. We can't rely on the tried and true and tested. We have to think outside the box. And it also means that if you've been a film writer, maybe now you need to try your hand at television or YouTube creation or the web series that people are producing or something along those lines. It just means that the times are asking us to surf the wave of change and be adaptive and flexible and creative. And that spark of creation, that's something I wanted to talk about. I'm going to throw it in here because when we're surfing and that spark of creativity comes to us, that inspiration, we need to act on it. And too many great ideas have been lost because people, they're not sure. It's like, I don't know. I got this great idea. It came to me in a dream, or I was out gardening and I got this great idea. Whenever inspiration strikes, it is the idea living that's coming down from the ethos saying, I want to live. I am this amazing idea and I want to live, and I'm either going to live through you. So you're going to write me, you're going to create me, you're going to produce me, or I'm going to find somebody else who will. And I think that call to action, that's what inspiration is. And so we are being called to action when we are inspired to create new content, inspired to collaborate, to put out something new and different. And even if it's something that no one's ever done before and there's no pathway because it's new, then be that pioneer, right? Create the path and do something new. But I think we are being called to be our best selves right now because the industry and what's happening within it, the change is very challenging, very chaotic. But we can't give in to the negativity. We can't give in to, oh, woe is me, because that goes nowhere. That serves no one. It absolutely serves no one.
Absolutely.
So we kind of have to pull up our big boy pants and our big girl panties and, you know.
Well, I see it as a well of opportunities, because when
Absolutely.
something is set in the walls of the studio, and that's the way to go. Get a headshot, get an agent, which was in the 80s probably, or maybe,
Yeah.
Now the chaos is challenging, but also it's a lot more opportunities. And when I held my workshops with actors or people who are loving their roles behind the camera, I mentioned that all of these are opportunities, but also remember that, let's say you are an actress or an actor, right? Your job is not on set only. Your job is, you wake up in the morning, you practice your self-love, you practice
Right.
you brush your teeth. Everything is a part of your routine, and not just on set.
Right.
You train your diction, you train your acting, then you audition. It's already a part of your work, not only on set. And I saw when people thought about that hey, all of the things that we do as elements of the chaos, even, right? Because sometimes you have to make a perfect hazelnut coffee, and like an actress. No, but you do something to a perfect stage, it makes you better. And now
Yes.
you made that coffee, and someone tasted that coffee, and they would remember you, not because of your acting, which could be mediocre, but because of the coffee. And then they will invite you because of how you made them feel. That's what people
Right.
remember.
That is exactly what people remember, is how you make them feel. And it's interesting the way you put that, because I think that's the case too. It's I've heard this saying, I'm not going to be able to quote it correctly, but it's, how you do anything is how you do everything, from the smallest thing. So if you're making a cup of coffee and you don't put your intent into it and you don't care, and it's sloppily made, and you didn't pay attention to how much coffee grounds you put in or whatever it is, that's kind of how you're approaching life. So the idea is how you do anything in life, from the smallest thing to the largest thing. We don't just do well. We don't just put our effort into the things that are going to get us something back, or the big things. We put it into everything we do, from the way we dress, from the way we do our hair, to how we present ourselves, right? To making your bed every morning, to having a clean home, to your environment is very important to how you feel about yourself, right? So a very Zen thing is that when you have a cluttered home, you also have a cluttered mind. And so keeping things clean and neat and put away helps us in our environment have a clear understanding about ourselves and what we want and what we're doing, and be able to be more effective. Because in the end, that's the job, is to be effective.
Right.
Whether we're acting.
I would add efficient and effective.
Well, okay, so that's interesting. I find the difference between efficient and effective very interesting, because I think we can be efficient and not necessarily be as effective. But I think effective has the element of efficiency within it. Because if you look at nature, nature is effective. It may not always be the most efficient way of going about something, but it's effective. And it might bloom a flower, it might create a flower that takes longer to bloom or takes longer to grow, but it is more effective in attracting the hummingbird that will draw its nectar and then spread the pollen, or the bees that will do that, right? So in the end, we can be efficient, but if we're not effective, then what's the point of being efficient? Right?
I agree with you. That's why I said effective and efficient, because effective, if you can make a scene for 5 million and can make it for 50,000, that's the effective and efficient.
Yes.
My thing will be dry, your thing will be expensive, but with a lot of elements. Now, which one sells better? I don't know, because it depends, right?
Yeah.
So when we combine both, and the thing that you brought with the nature, to me, I think nature is the perfect example of the most balanced, effective, and efficient creations, which is flexible. It balances itself, like with storms and stuff, for example.
Right.
But if in the creation we had one inch or one element or one whatever micro gram of an element less, the whole balance would crack down.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, the nature, like the most beautiful of creations that we can observe, it's the perfect example, and
it is.
I try to follow it the best way possible. But it's a great comparison.
Thank you. And I agree.
Now that you mentioned that you and your fellows talk about the challenges in the business, and you mentioned the Paramount layoffs, I read that story. I was fascinated, not in a fascinating way. And to me, I had an interview on that with one of the media, but I think it's one of the reasons is because the executives are somehow appointed not because of what they can do, but because who they kind of know better.
Of course.
And they circulate from Disney to Sony. Not to Sony, they're of quality, but from Disney to Paramount, and then boom. I can't comprehend how a big brand name like that can make enough money. It's just absolutely mismanagement of the executives.
Yeah, I agree. It is often mismanagement of the executives, and because this is, I don't mean this to sound negative, but there is it's already kind of ingrained within the industry, sort of the good old boy nepotism kind of. It is, everybody says it and they go, it's all in who you know, right? It's who you know. Yeah. So people get hired because of who they know, not because of what they can do. That's not 100% true, but it happens a lot. And that can be a good thing, especially if it's you and you're wanting to get hired, and your friend is the executive. They're saying, hey, I have an opening. I think you'd be great for it. But if I'm not qualified for it, they shouldn't hire me. right? You shouldn't get the job if you don't know what you're doing and you're not qualified. That's the problem. We do know that we like something we mentioned earlier in our discussion is that we hire people that we like, right? We hire people that we want to work with because we can trust them. And the reason we like working with them is because we can trust them. They show up with a good attitude. They know what they're doing. I mean, bottom line, the basic is that you have to know what you're doing and you do it well. On top of that, showing up with a good attitude and being fun to work with and being a nice person, that helps. But, it's kind of like knowing what you're doing is the baseline. And I'm not sure that the executives I'm not sure who they prove that to. I don't know how they get in, but somehow they get in. And then once you're in, it is easier to stair step your way across or around or something. But life has a way we're going back to that idea about being effective and ROI. Let's talk a little bit about return on investment. No matter who unless you're a famous name or somebody's daughter or son, and you can't get kicked out of the company kind of thing. Your dad owns the company. If you don't prove yourself, if there's no ROI on what you're bringing to the table, there's no return on investment, then you won't keep that job for long. And I think that's the important thing to remember is that no matter where we're at, no matter what the circumstance and situation is our responsibility is to do the best job we can in any given moment, in any given circumstance, to know that we are bringing effective, efficient, quality work that has a return, that has a value. So you mentioned the word value earlier. And that value helps the whole because it's a collaborative business, it's a collaborative effort. And when we can be part of that value that is going to, in the end, within the collaboration, bring a return on the investment, then that's what we're all hoping for. That's the goal. That's the yay, we were all part of something that worked and made money and was a beautiful statement or a beautiful piece of art or a really fun movie.
Right. Well, what I've felt, again, it's not like a fact. It might be though, but while reading about the crash at Paramount and their executives and their changes behind that, it's I don't think that an executive of that level should be an employee with a person with an employee mindset, because an employee is just sitting, getting their hours, getting the paycheck. They have no clue in majority of times what is business and how to bring money in.
Right.
They contribute to the paper workflow. They bring up matters and excuses and explanations why this didn't work or why this employee sucks or whatever. But it's not the point of an executive. You know me kind of a little bit, and I imagine myself already being the head of Paramount, and what would I do to not lose this much money, but to make, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't researched all the matters that they've done. It's a lot of time to waste, but I would definitely do a lot of things differently. And it comes the same way with politicians, with executives. If you are of an employee mindset or just a political figure, not an executive in business, like managing a business or a household or something like that, it's not going to work, right? And that brings me to the next question. You've talked about the uncertainties, the times and stresses and whatever else your peers go through. How is everybody, how do your fellows feel about what is going on in the world? Begin with wars around elections. And how does it affect them, their work, if any?
Okay. Well, it does affect them. And especially, well, not just especially, like it's everything. It's, so I have friends who are very connected to the Ukraine situation and the war going on there. I have friends that are Jewish and are affected by the attacks by Hamas and the war that happened there. And then I have friends that are Lebanese, and then the like what is happening there. They're not, their family wasn't directly affected, but that's their country, like their home country. And so they have feelings. So war is horrible, no matter what side you're on. It doesn't even, like, sides kind of don't matter when we talk about how it affects the world and the devastation and the pain, and people are just dying.
Right.
All sides, everywhere. People are people. It's like I think about, I'll make no bones about it. Like I think the Russians attacking Ukraine is unconscionable, and I think that Putin's out of his mind. But the Russian people, the people living in the country, I don't know anything about them. I can't fault them. They probably just want to live their lives like everybody else. And in these other countries where the chaos is happening and the war is happening, and honestly, here in America, because we haven't had a war on our shores or within our borders in such a long time, no one alive can relate to that. We just can't relate to it. I mean, we had 9/11, so that was the closest thing that we've had to that. But the ongoing day-to-day struggles of bombs going off all around you. So it is affecting people that I know, and it has left many people in a daze, and it's very hard to concentrate on the work at hand when you keep thinking about what's going on over there. And whether or not we're directly affected here, it's like the bombs aren't falling on us, but many people have relatives there. They have people they care about, and or they have an investment in the philosophies or the reasons for the war, and who they believe, whatever side they're on and all that. It's a devastating time for everyone involved. Thank God that it's not on our shore, but how horrible for it to be on theirs. And a couple of things I will say is that, when it does come up with my friends and colleagues that we talk about, there is a seriousness and a true compassion for all those involved.
Right.
And I think we have to remember that we are dealing with people, and lives are being devastated, if lost and then devastated. And it's going to take a lot to recover from that. So anyone who has any kind of empathy at all or understanding, I think, has some sense of it's going to affect them on some level. It doesn't stop us from working. It doesn't stop the work from needing to be done. It makes me think of being a mom. And, I have a son, and I remember very clearly when he was young and something would happen to me, I would be sick as a dog. I would be just like laying on the floor, so sick with the flu, just unable to move. But when my son needed me and I'm his mom, you get up and you do it anyway. It doesn't matter how bad you feel. So it's kind of the same thing with our jobs now, people being affected, and how it's affecting their emotional state. But we still have to do our jobs. And it might take away some of the joy. It might take away some of the lightheartedness. But at the end of the day, we still have to produce. And I think, for people who are in power, like, the budgets still are the budgets, and the time constraints are still the time constraints. And everybody would love to be able to say, well, let's just push everything back a week because we're all grieving what's going on in the world, but we can't do that.
Right.
So, so that's part of the challenges of being a creative, of being a person who has a job to do, even when there's devastation and destruction kind of all around us. So that's what I would say, is that it does affect people. It's hard. It's hard when your heart hurts, but you still have to do the job.
That's a good point. You have to do the job.
Yeah.
It's truly to me fascinating, and the fascination percentage is getting smaller. But how
Right.
emotional people are versus like turn on the common sense when people talk about Putin or Israel. Putin has his agenda, and I love how Robert Kennedy Jr. talks about that with
Yeah.
no love or hate. Like, hey, this is the fact.
Yeah.
He warned NATO about not expanding. He warned Kiev from not stealing. And when Kiev was stealing from the West and from Russia, well, someone will get upset sooner or later.
Yeah.
And I told the guys in Kiev, I had some connection to the government, like, guys, if you like don't stop, it was back in 2004, I think, or
Okay.
ish, they will kick your ass because they are more of people with emotions and feelings instead of just the money, right?
Right. Right.
And well, obviously, no one's listening to a younger, gentleman who says that your ass will get kicked, and it's getting kicked, and the whole
Yeah.
nation is suffering. But that's the way to go, and obviously, it's not comparable to the Israel issue.
Right.
I do stand with the people, and I have so many friends. And again, it has to be taken with a perspective of common sense instead of emotions, because that's just destructive.
Yeah.
The last question for you today,
Yeah.
with all of the things that we discussed and what's happening in the business, in the country, elections are coming
Yeah.
around the world. How do you, well, in theory, foresee possibilities of the development of the business, of the entertainment business in LA, in its like headquarters? Let's say in theory the next 5 years.
Okay. Well, I kind of feel like, so there's my thinking sense, what my common sense tells me, there's what my thinking sense and wisdom tells me, and then there's my intuition, what I feel emotionally. And then if you just kind of pull all those together, what comes to mind is the Wild West. It reminds me of the frontier. Like it was the beginning 100 years ago when film was a new industry, and we were learning so much about it and how it was expanding and what we could do, and how talkies were coming out and all these different things. I think we're on that same kind of cusp. We're on that verge where things are changing so rapidly and so much. It is the Wild West out there. The way people are creating content, from the individuals filming on their iPhones to the big studios, and I want to say corporations, because they are corporations, right? But the big studios, and how they're producing and what they're willing to put their money in, and what they're not, and the what's coming out, like the quality of the things that are coming out. And it just feels like it's kind of the Wild West. And I think if you are a maverick, I think if you have the guts and you have the wherewithal to try new things and experiment and take risks. I think it's about, we're on the cusp of not risks like maybe jumping out of an airplane kind of risk, but calculated risks, right? So taking calculated risks on something that's new and innovative, and will catch people's attention, and a new way of doing something. I think that's where we're at. I think that we just need to think that this is the Wild West. The laws are different. We maybe, is this a state or is this a territory? Is there a marshal here or not? We need to allow ourselves to think outside the box, and I know everybody uses that so much, but to really expand the way we think and expand what we think of as entertainment and how it gets made, and who the audiences are, because people are making content specifically for YouTube now, because you can monetize on YouTube and you can do really, really well on YouTube if you can get the audience.
Right.
So I just think that that's the best analogy I can come up with, is that we need to innovate and be willing to take calculated risks and look at doing things, try things on, try it. It's like, try something new every single day. This is what I would say to anyone in the industry, or actually anywhere. If you're an entrepreneurial type, is no matter what your focus is, do something new, learn something new every single day, and try it out, experiment, and
Definitely.
seeing what sticks, right? Throw enough stuff at the wall, something's going to stick, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, so go ahead.
No, that was just my confirmation, because that's what all the actors in LA need to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that they would hear that from you as well, that hey, get your ass up from the chair and stop whining, and produce.
That's not going to serve anyone.
Yeah, become a brand, become a value, right? Because right now, even in my experience, it's way more efficient, and I love working with influencers. They might be less of acting type of people, right? But they know how to work efficiently. They know how to work with professional teams, and they know the value of the content that you create.
Yeah.
They're not just, oh, I'm a diva here. No. We are in the business, and I'm in front of camera. I'm delivering. Yeah. So it's a great thing. But I love your comparison, the Wild West, especially. The whole thing is Wild West, even with the southern border open. We'll face quite a few interesting things in the nearest future. I would love to discuss more with you, to have a set of episodes. It's extremely
great.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll talk more.
Okay.
I know today you have a few meetings, and you have to buy a new vehicle. Congratulations.
I do. My car broke down yesterday, and it died like a horrible death. So today, my job today is to find a new car.
It's a dream job.
Oh, it's a dream job. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not a horrible thing to do. It's a good thing.
It's a fantastic thing. Well, yeah. Colleen, thank you so much for coming today. It was a pleasure as always, and we'll have this episode published. I'm sure that we'll get great response, and I'll look forward to our next meetings and conversations.
I do as well, Victor. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure always.